Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of the Hope of Mum and Dad podcast. I'm Becky and this is Fuzz. And we this week have no news on our fertility journey. Unfortunately, the Wales Fertility Institute is yet to contact us. So hoping to hear from them in the next couple of weeks, if not days, fingers crossed. And I'm very aware that lots of clinics are starting to open. I'm really positive and happy for the people who are starting up their treatment again, but also a tiny bit jealous. But over to this week's podcast. A few weeks ago, we spoke to our good friend Ed in South Korea.
Yeah, and it was really good. Ed's a friend of mine. Me and Becky met each other while working in South Korea as English teachers, and that is where I met Ed. Ed has met, he has a South Korean wife, and we talked to them about their IVF journey, and it's a pretty interesting story. So try and listen to it to the end because there's a few twists and turns in there.
Yeah,
and it was really we found out some twists and turns to it on the day. I didn't realize a few things, so really insightful, really cool, really positive, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
What's happening, guys? We got a good friend of ours, Ed, who's been through the IVF journey himself. Good friend of mine from South Korea. Fun fact: me and Becky were actually teachers in South Korea, and we met each other. That's where all the fun started. Mm-hmm. And so Ed was there at the same time that we were there, years ago now, a long time ago.
8 years ago.
8 years ago.
9.
Yeah, it was.
But Ed has married a lovely lady in South Korea, and they settled down and started a family and been through IVF. So we're gonna just jump into sort of his story about stuff, and maybe cover some of the differences between the UK system and the other systems. Anyway, you're on the screen. How you doing, Ed?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Yourself?
Not too bad. Just trying to have a kid, basically. That would be it'd be a lot better if we had one on the way, but can't complain. So tell us about your journey with IVF.
Well, it started pretty much after we got married. We were very intimate, everything was going really well, but just there was no kid coming. Friends around us, they're all popping kids out everywhere, and it does get to you a little bit. You end up thinking, well, why not us? And so we went to a fertility clinic and had a quick check out. Nothing wrong with either of us, according to the doctor. So we went ahead with what they call an assisted pregnancy, or assisted in vitro, which is kind of like where they pump my wife full of drugs to make as many eggs as possible. Then they take a sample of my sperm and inject it into her womb. Didn't work. And it only cost $70, so it wasn't a big hit.
Mm-hmm. How long after you'd been trying did you go through that process first, Ed?
It was almost 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long time.
So it was a long time.
Yeah.
The thing was, we went back to the doctor, and the doctor, she couldn't find anything wrong with us. That's the thing. She couldn't find anything. So she sent my wife to another clinic and me to another clinic to get checked out. Basically, I was just not fit enough. That's the thing. I wasn't eating correctly. I wasn't exercising enough.
Mm-hmm.
I was drinking too much alcohol, which kind of still do.
Easy to do in Korea, though.
Next subject.
For my wife, though, she had got one ovary that was working really well, but the fallopian tube was damaged and it had scar tissue that was blocking anything exiting it. The other ovary was not supplying healthy eggs. Mm-hmm. To the ratio of, I think the doctor said it was 1 in 2 million eggs would be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear a number that big, that could be a lifetime.
Yeah.
It could be tomorrow. It could be never.
Yeah.
So we went back to our original doctor, and she said, well, you're going to have to try IVF. That's the only way to do it.
Mm-hmm. So how does that procedure start? How do you get the ball rolling when you're in South Korea, if you're going through that process?
Well, in South Korea, it's a bit weird because you can go to your normal doctor, and your normal doctor can just send you to IVF straight there.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go to a fertility clinic, and they can refer you to a doctor, or you can just go to the IVF clinic directly.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's 3 ways to do it, and they're all the same, eventually.
Yeah, they all end in the same. They all end up in the same path. It's just one is, it depends on how much money you've got and how impatient you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're on in the NHS. I think I was staggered by how amazing the NHS treatment is. Like I think Beck, do you want to just break it down to people that might not know? But basically, people that are eligible get X amount of rounds, and then explain it like you are explaining it to an idiot. Like
so, it's different between. In the United Kingdom, it's different in each area. So Wales, I think everyone gets the same. If you qualify, everyone gets the same amount of rounds. And the nice guidelines is that everyone gets 3 rounds, because I think it's like a 1 in 3 chance that the IVF will be successful. I want to get back to Ed.
No, but let's just talk about the differences between South Korea and the UK, because Ed's from the UK and he lives in South Korea, so there might be a lot of expats that we know, especially in the teaching community around the world. So basically, in the UK, a 1 round you get in Wales, you get 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah. So within that first round, like Ed said, they stimulate the female's eggs, pump her with hormones, then they collect the eggs, and then they put the eggs and the sperm together in a petri dish. If you're having normal IVF, or if you're having ICSI, which is what we'll be having, they inject a single sperm, the best one, into the egg directly, because they don't trust that the 2 things will meet on their own. And then after a period of time, when the egg and the sperm have then made an embryo, then they transfer that back into the womb.
Yeah, so ICSI, you get a couple of goes. They'll go, right, let's make a good embryo.
They make as many embryos as they possibly
can. But generally, they said, if I'm remembering this rightly, but I think they said generally per round you might harvest 10 good ones.
It depends on the woman, and it depends on the woman and how she reacts to the stimulation, really, and
more than one,
on
though,
her
isn't it?
situation.
They don't go through a whole
sometimes
procedure.
Some women go through the procedure and they might go through stims for 2 to 4 weeks, or sometimes longer if they're going on a long protocol. And they could go through all that and then not collect any eggs. They could collect 1 egg. They could collect, like you said, up to 20 eggs, but it just depends on the individual.
So I thought a general sort of vague average across the board type thing that was explained was that, like, generally per round we might collect samples from both, and then whether it's 60 or whether it's the other one, we'll have like 10 good chances, and out of those 10 sort of sperm and egg things, we'll implant 1. If that doesn't work, we'll go through them all.
Yeah, I never think it's as many as 10, because there's a huge drop off after they've collected the eggs. Say they collected 10 healthy eggs, then perhaps only 10 of those that they injected with your sperm, only maybe 5 of them or less might become embryos that you can transfer. So the point I'm driving home
is it's more than 1.
Yeah, you get multiple tries.
So let's just say, like, you get 5 good seeds ready to go. Yeah. But out of those 5, when people think of normal conception rates, they think it's 1 in every. You told me this before. It's not good. Anyway, like, normal conception is quite hard.
Yeah.
But with these 5 tickets for a baby each time, like, the chances for one of them becoming good is a lot higher than natural conception. So that was something that blew my mind. And then also, basically, to bring it back, if you're in the NHS in the UK, you get multiple rounds. So 1 round is 5 chances. You're more than likely...
Not necessarily 5 chances.
Generally, just like as an average. Like, there's more than 1.
I think it's hard to say.
Chance.
It could be more than 1 chance.
Yeah.
And then you get 3 times to do more than 1 chance.
Yeah.
But like I said...
So the odds of getting 1 child out of the whole system is quite good.
Yeah. And in England, though, it's a postcode lottery, so it depends on where you live and what the local authority are providing, and what the NHS in that region, the health board there, what they can provide and how they're funding it.
We're pretty lucky to have an NHS for IVF, though.
We're fortunate in Wales.
Yeah. But so, I mean, Ed, did you think about coming back home as a UK citizen to?
Not really, no. No. Mainly because to get my wife into the UK wasn't exactly easy. I don't know why. She's a very qualified woman. She speaks 2 languages perfectly. She is at the right level to be a high school teacher, and yet it's not happening. There were all these things, like I had to have a certain job, I had to have a certain level, we had a certain place to live.
We looked at Canada and America, and it's the same sort of style of system.
It would not have been easy. I think also the change from Korea to the UK would be
hard.
A really big step for my wife. A really big step.
It's a lot to go through without your family and your support network around you.
It is, and I think that's the other thing is doing IVF is not just a flippant thing you do.
So back to
It's
your
really
story, Ed.
And the cultural, like in Korea, like is there? Because me and Becky obviously know that the cultural differences in Korea are huge, and you just kind of you get used to them. But you know, to someone that hasn't been there and doesn't know anything about it, like, could you give us a sort of breakdown of how IVF is looked at? Is it got a sort of stereotype about it, or is it looked at in a different way than it is over here? Or
I think initially in the late 90s, people frowned on it. I think mainly because it wasn't understood. It was kind of like a failure of the family, and so people were very shy about letting people know.
Mm-hmm.
But the birth rate in Korea is so low that the government almost promote it to the point where the government pays 60% of the actual cost. So
Yeah, that's good.
it costs about $4,000 per time,
Mm-hmm.
and we ended up paying about $1,300,
wow,
which wasn't a massive amount, because
Yeah.
you know, if you really want a child and this is the route you need to go, then you've got to commit to it.
and
Yeah.
they cost more than that anyway.
Well, it probably does. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It probably does. Basically, though, the way the Koreans look at it now is like, well, it's an essential thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in my city, in Daegu, where we all were in,
Daegu?
it has the lowest birth rate in the whole of Korea.
Wow.
It has the lowest birth rate in the world.
But it's got
Really?
the best
So-
drinkers in Korea as well. There might be some correlation.
It does have the highest cholesterol rate and the highest alcohol abuse rate.
Really?
So I don't know, maybe that's got something to do with it. But then also, I mean, there was about 6 months ago, there was a released document about an environmental impact from 6 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
where a company had leaked pollutants into the local water system
Oh,
and just hadn't told anybody.
Wow.
you don't think of Korea like that. You think of Korea as like a very good, decent, not
Yeah.
other Asian country.
But there are some very shady companies, you know. And I mean, right now we're just seeing how Samsung are getting the heir of Samsung is being arrested for all manner of dirty tricks. So every company seems to think they can get away with it until somebody catches them.
Yeah.
That's one thing I like about Korea, though, is that they're quite active about like, you know, is it the president? I can't remember, but they basically ousted one of the dirty political.
Park Geun-hye, they got her for
They got out on the streets and they complained.
University grades or something.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting to see, you know, people actually taking action, going out and getting stuff
Yeah.
done.
It is, and I think they had, I think it was about 4 million people, something like that, or maybe more in one demonstration. They were all sitting down in Seoul.
Wow.
It's amazing to see, truly amazing to see.
I just think now, like the way that Ed's just talked about how awesome it is if you've got money to for the IVF access in South Korea. Like, wouldn't it be good if we did it in South Korea?
Well, actually, medical tourism is a huge thing in South Korea, isn't it? Lots of people, it's one of the prime places for plastic surgery and everything.
Indeed, yeah. The plastic surgery is it's just the bomb here.
Yeah.
You literally see lots and lots of people from all over the world turn up for eye surgeries, and LASIK is the number one thing.
Yeah.
Nose surgeries and chin surgeries are just wow.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite scary to think the amount of money that comes in for somebody to have their jawline made into a triangle.
Yeah. I remember some of my students over there telling me, like, if they pass their university exams and their high school exams, that they would get plastic surgery as a reward.
Yeah,
Like
some
cheek
parents
implants and
promise it.
eyelid kind of adjustments and stuff like that. Is
Oh God, the eyelids.
a whole other word. Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I was going to say, like, we got off track a little bit there, but your route, I think you explained there was like 3 different ways that you could go about it, but I don't think we actually went into the way that you did.
Yeah. So how did you get to the IVF clinic and what happened then?
Well, the first IVF clinic we went to, we were recommended from a friend who is she's a senior nurse in another hospital, and it was her friend. She guaranteed this person has a really good rate. The success rate is good. The economic rate is good. The facility is good. And we were very optimistic. You walk into this place and there's all these pictures on the walls of the babies that she's helped make. Lots of success stories. You get this pamphlet with all these massive figures on of how many people she's helped. But then when you get in there, she almost doesn't treat you like people. She treats you like machines.
So you were just telling us that you had arrived at your clinic and your doctor was treating you a little bit like machines.
Yeah, literally. She didn't seem to care about us as people.
Mm-hmm.
She cared about the product.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, give me the money and I'll give you this 33% guarantee.
Wow.
And okay, when you go in there and you get told that, generally IVF has a higher success rate.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say a frozen egg has a 36% chance, a standard egg has a 33% chance. The Korean law says we can only put 2 eggs in.
Mm-hmm.
And bear in mind, you're looking at $4,000, and we're paying $1,300 of that, and the Korean government's paying the rest.
Yeah.
And every time my wife does this, she has to go to the local government office, apply for it,
Mm-hmm.
get the doctor to send a sort of a fax or something through to them. They okay it, they pay their bit, and then we have to pay our bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time we do this, every time we go, every time anything happens, my wife has to go back to this government office.
Wow.
So it's not as straightforward as just turn up to the doctor, pay the money, go through all the process. My wife was going back.
Loads of middlemen.
Sometimes twice a week she was going back because they hadn't received the fax on time or they'd received the wrong information. And so she would be making phone calls to the doctors. The doctor would be saying, "Oh, but we did that, and we need this." So it wasn't like the NHS where you turn up and they've got all your details. They know who you are. They know what you need.
Yeah.
In Korea, it's very much like a business and a clinic,
Mm-hmm.
and they keep the two very, very separate, and they don't really communicate. So the business side doesn't really talk to the doctor, and the doctor doesn't talk to the business side.
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of get along.
Sounds frustrating.
But also sounds like it could be quite efficient. It might suck that you don't get the human touch and stuff, but maybe more people get IVF because they're quite militant with it.
There is that idea behind it, but Korea has this problem with other options like the pension office and the tax office do not talk to each other. So if the pension office don't get their money because the tax got it wrong, you have to contact the pension office to talk to the tax office, but they won't talk to the tax office. So you've got to go. But the tax office don't know what you're talking about because the pension office haven't made a complaint.
Wow.
So if it goes wrong very badly. That's the simple thing. But
so was it like a nice experience? Well,
I think for me the first time it was very exciting and it was very hopeful. And when you get told all this great information, all the success stories, you can get carried away with the idea that it's going to work for us.
Yeah.
I think it's going to work for us.
That's a really common thing. You're like, yes, we've got IVF now, so it's going to happen. We're going to come out of this with a baby.
Yeah, and you've got to rope that in. You've got to. And the worst thing is when it fails, and there's a 50-50 chance it's going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And when it does fail, you cannot go down the rabbit hole and look for anything in your history that could have caused you to not be able to have a child. You can't, because your wife needs you in that moment.
Yeah.
The same as you need each other in that particular moment, because what your wife's going through and what you're going through are very different things, but ultimately they relate to the same thing. So you can't afford to go think, well, I got hit in the groin by a soccer ball when I was 11. Did that do any damage? You can't do that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to. The amount of things have happened to me over the years. I literally wouldn't. And I say to Becky, it's like I'm very much of that mindset. And obviously I get, I won't know until we go through that situation if we do have a go and then it fails, wherever. But ultimately, the way I'm looking at it is like, we want a kid, we can't have one naturally, so we're trying IVF, and I'm just waiting to think. But Becky's very in depth with everything. She likes to. I think it's a woman thing.
Was Mina the same?
Well, Mina was very apprehensive. I think not because of the way she was brought up with money not being around that much when she was a child, and obviously between the two of us earning, we were fairly middle class. I think we still are. But I don't think it was so much that as when she read about it, there was a lot of heartache and people who had conceived and then lost the child, people who conceived and the child had been slightly deformed or had other problems
Mm-hmm.
that the doctors hadn't picked up on. There were a lot of very scary stories, and I think she picked up on a lot of the scary stories and kind of moved away from the positive stories.
Mm-hmm.
So she was also very, very self-conscious because she was a little bit overweight. We both were. we weren't particularly very moving couple.
Yeah.
You know.
We used to play football though.
Mm-hmm.
And so for her, I think it was very much like she read a lot of the negative things. She read a lot of the in-between things, but she got a wealth of all this information. I don't know how she calculated it all, to be honest. I don't know where she stored it all. Because half the things the doctors told us, I just went, you know.
Mm.
And she stored it all. It was amazing. But I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know if
just to
that's
circle
necessarily
back
the same for you.
on the you were saying about the fitness thing, like the original doctor. The original doctor said that there was nothing wrong with you both. Like, how do you think that came about? Like, because that was wrong, obviously, right?
Well, I don't. From what she was looking at, she wasn't looking for the IVF standard. She was looking for the assisted standard. So you've got some people who do the assisted standard who are massively obese, and it works first time.
Yeah.
So again, from her perspective, what she was looking for, we were fine. But for what the IVF was looking for, we weren't fine.
Mm-hmm. So when you got to the clinic and you started going through the first procedure with your doctor who wasn't so amenable or personal,
It wasn't approachable.
Yeah, how did that go for you? That round?
I mean, the first time we went, I kind of sat in silence and just listened because it's all in Korean. My Korean isn't. It's only about 50-60% I can understand anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife has to listen very carefully, and then I'll ask her some of the things I understood and see if I got it right, and she can fill in the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
So I just sort of sat there and listened. But the way the doctor sort of just sat back on her chair, didn't really engage or make eye contact with either of us, just looked at notes more than anything. It was very, there was no personal sort of interaction.
Mm-hmm.
I got a weird thing about that. Like, I can kind of empathize with it. Do you know what I mean? Because they must see hundreds of people, and it's it's not as personal or sensitive to them. And I think, I know Becky would probably hate it because you can read into things and get sensitive about them. But the same things I look at, I'll be like, oh, I don't see a problem with that, but you'll be upset about it or whatever. So I can imagine it causing a bit of upset for people, but I can kind of understand how doctors might get like that, because after like seeing hundreds of people, like,
well, I mean, also that could have just been the way that she does it.
Yeah.
I mean, not every doctor is going to be super friendly and super chatty and super into you. Some of them are just going to be, well, okay, I understand this case. This is what needs doing.
Yeah.
And so we went through the system. I went in, gave my sample. Mina took all these injections. And honestly, when you inject your wife with a needle, it kind of freaks you out.
Yeah.
I mean, she was standing in the kitchen. She's like, "It's a Saturday. You've got to do this." And I'm like,
did you share the responsibility, or did you do them all?
Well, her school nurse did most of them, but on the Saturday and the Sunday, I had to do it.
Yeah.
And, it just felt very wrong.
Yeah.
It's like I'm stabbing my wife with a needle.
Oh, bless you.
And it's I'm not squeamish of blood or anything like that, but it's different when you cut yourself and you're like, oh man, I've cut myself. But when you stick a needle into your wife and
intentionally,
you're like, oh my god, I just hurt her.
Yeah.
But she did all of that stuff. We got the eggs out. They were pretty good, healthy eggs. And like I said, the first one was ectopic, so they had to flush it out. And then we did a frozen one, and the frozen one just failed completely. And so my wife was a bit despondent after that. Wanted a break.
So you'd had two unsuccessful rounds then.
Yeah, we had
twice through with the injections.
Well,
or was the frozen round more natural?
The frozen round was. I'm not really sure how they did the frozen round.
Yeah.
But I know my wife turned up. put them in, put 2 eggs in, and off she went, and it just didn't work. And I don't necessarily know if that was the quality of the egg wasn't good enough or anything else. I just think that my wife's body wasn't ready. And I don't know if that makes any scientific sense whatsoever. But I think sometimes your body just isn't ready.
Yeah.
There is science behind like placebo effects and things like that. Like things I thought were nonsense, but they've actually proved that a positive outlook on stuff and sort of acknowledgement that something's going to change can actually make a change. And I know how ridiculous that sounds, but there is science, but I'll have to dig it out for the next podcast.
So after those 2 unfortunately unsuccessful rounds, did you have any support from your clinic and that doctor who didn't have a great bedside manner? Because I know over in the UK we have what is commonly known as the WTF, the what the fuck appointment after a failed attempt, and they have like a debriefing kind of what happened, what they did, what didn't work, and why they think it didn't work, and kind of a way forward. Did they do similar for you over there in Korea?
Well, I was at work and I couldn't get time off because the way my school worked was every Wednesday we could go home at either 12 o'clock afternoon, or we could do extra and get a lot, private
more money
from the students.
Yeah.
Which it worked out really nicely. So I agreed to do that.
Yeah.
And my wife went on her own, and the doctor wasn't even there. She'd gone golfing.
Oh God.
Woman doctor.
Even though there was an appointment, so they just gave my wife this letter and was like, this fills in the blanks for you.
Wow.
I think that was kind of like a punch in the stomach.
Yeah.
Because my wife came home, she wasn't very happy. She didn't want to do it anymore. She got very, very emotional, very, very stressed, and just the look on her face, the way the bags under her eyes and their skin in general wasn't right.
Yeah.
And I couldn't put pressure on. I couldn't say, let's go back. So we said we take a year off and go to a different doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in Daegu, where there's so many IVF clinics, you can just shop around. A year later, we went to another IVF clinic. This guy was very much like, well, if you're over 30, we'll put 2 eggs in, we'll freeze 2. This is the amount of money, etc., etc. And he didn't give us any promises. It failed, and then he disposed of our frozen eggs anyway.
Disposed of them
without asking.
Without asking.
Wow.
So apparently an administrative mistake, and he didn't get the message, and it all went wrong. And
oh wow, that must have been heartbreaking for you.
Well, I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. To be honest, that was it. My wife was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. Don't want to do this. And it put a massive. It just put a. I mean, I don't know if anyone's told you about the massive amount of stress that it'll put you under.
Yeah.
But my wife's emotions went up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, and she could flip at any point, anywhere. We could be eating an ice cream and she'd just melt down. Just whoa, they're like, oh, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
And they don't tell you, you should calm your wife down in this way, or you should talk to her this way. You're just like, what the fuck do I do?
Yeah.
I got good practice for that.
Yeah, Fuzz will say he's well practiced in that, but I think it'll probably be extreme.
Basically, Disney Plus and Disney soundtrack on Spotify, silly dances, effeminate moves, little dance moves, Beyonce dances, and then we're out the water.
I came home one afternoon and my wife was sitting on the sofa and she's crying her eyes out, and I just, this is not worth it. It wasn't worth it. I wasn't going to do it again. I wasn't going to ask her to do it again.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't regret doing it. That's the thing. I don't regret spending the money, and I don't regret doing it, because I think it did give us a little bit of hope of how something would happen or something could happen. But I didn't want to come home from work and see my wife just distraught. It tore me into pieces, I mean, what sort of a man would I be to try and tell her to do it again?
That's so hard on both of you from both perspectives, because obviously she, like you said, has just got to a really hard, difficult place, having been through so much, and then you obviously hoped for a child, and then coming home and seeing her like that is hard for you to see her like that, but also hard for you to accept that maybe that's not the way it was going to go anymore.
Well, it was a hard lesson because I kind of, I took myself out of the way for a while and went to the coffee shops on my own and things, and just tried to get my head into the idea that, okay, I might never be a dad.
Yeah.
I might never be able to pick up my own kid.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of run it through your head of, when you're 60, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
When I don't want to go on vacation anymore, what am I going to do?
Who's going to look after you?
Eventually you get to that point of thinking.
Yeah.
Mostly it was about, okay, my wife and I love going on vacation. We love snorkeling and scuba diving. We love skiing. But how long can we do that before we get bored of it?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds daft, but having a kid doesn't necessarily make that last longer, but it amplifies it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked at adoption. My wife was like, "Whoa, hell no!"
Yeah.
This is Korea.
Yeah.
We'll be fifth-class citizens.
Oh.
Which it's sad but true.
Yeah.
Korea is not a friendly place for adopted children. It's not friendly. I don't think it ever will be.
Mm-hmm.
And I can understand my wife. I can understand my wife's feeling. Like if she's got a little kid and it doesn't look anything like me, they're going to think that she's a bad woman.
Yeah.
It's just the hassle and the energy it takes to just go through it. I know what you mean. Like, it's not, obviously, it's fine. We all agree that it's cool to do that. But when the whole society is against you and you get looks and people make comments, and
in South Korea, there's so many social stereotypes that you have to come up against, I guess.
There is.
Interestingly, though,
I don't think they'll go away.
In South Korea, though, like, there's like this kind of positive thing of Westerners. It's almost like, do you know what I mean? Like, I noticed that sometimes people would treat us differently because, well, pretty much everyone would treat you differently as a Westerner or a Uyghur, and but sometimes that has positive effects. Like, people would treat you better than Koreans because you're Western. I just thought maybe that would have an effect. Maybe they would welcome, foreigner kids, especially in hagwons and academies and stuff like that, because it's kind of like it's like a marketing tool to have. It is though, for like hagwons.
It is in Korea. It is in Korea, yeah. I mean, it would depend. It would depend, and also we ran into. Just looking it up on my own, I ran into in Korea. If you're not a resident of Korea, you can't do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Some parents in Korea still have the rights to their child, so you have to buy the rights to the child.
Wow.
Not sure how that works, but that's written down very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Adopting outside the country, we both had to be residents. And there was a whole host of things that were kind of like, even if we wanted to do that, there's a brick in the way, and you've got to kick it out of the way somehow.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bridge, you've got to cross it. You're just running a race, and everyone is putting things in front of you to stop you doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And you keep thinking, well, there's all these children that need adopting, and there's all these children who need good families, and they don't want to put these children anywhere.
Mm.
But why do they put all these blocks in the way?
Mm.
And again, that messes you up even more. But things did get better because we got a little girl.
Yeah. So,
success story. Let's just do the positive bits.
Yeah. So, what were your options then? How did is it Lily? How did Lily come about?
Well, we went on vacation to Thailand, and I think we drank a bottle of tequila every night between. We lied to several scuba diving teams that we hadn't been drinking, which I read now is extremely dangerous. We got into the airport and bought 2 bottles each, bottle each, sort of thing. Came home, that lasted a week. And we pretty much just went a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
So I think we drank pretty much every single night. We watched movies until 3 o'clock in the morning, got up and went to work, half tired, hi kids.
Yeah.
And one night my wife woke up with a shocking pain in her right hand side, and she was like, oh my god, she loved rolling around the floor. And I'm like, oh my god, baby, you're having a miscarriage. This is terrible. There's blood as well. I'm like, oh,
Wow.
ooh, not again. Sort of thing. And so the next day, Saturday, she went to the doctor, and the doctor said, you're pregnant.
Natural conception.
Yeah.
Wow. So that was literally like your blowout holiday. You'd gone to Thailand to kind of get away from it all.
Oh, well, I kind of feel like maybe all of the stress that we put ourselves under, all of the injections that my wife had put into herself, all of the appointments we'd gone to, all of the time we'd spent thinking about things, anticipating things, hoping for things. I think when we just let go, and just almost didn't care about anything apart from paying the bills, then there it is. I think sometimes your body just needs to be very, very basically relaxed, and then woohoo, there you go.
That is a really positive story, isn't it? And so nice. I'm so happy for you. It's really lovely.
I would not let me call our daughter Tequila.
Oh, I get it.
We've been playing with some names as well. Like, I thought Taco would be a pretty cool name, boy or girl. I'm not allowed, just be vetoed. But yeah, so the original fertility stuff at the beginning that the doctor said that was an issue was female based. Did you get checked out and you were good and stuff, or?
They basically told me I got high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and I basically wasn't looking after myself well enough.
Yeah.
I wasn't eating the right foods to sort of increase my potency, should I say?
Yeah. Did you get a check, like yeah. And were you low, medium, high, normal?
I was, for my age, I was slightly lower than the average. Not dramatically, but slightly lower.
Yeah.
I'm like crazy low, like literally. But it's interesting you said about the scar tissue on the fallopian tube stuff, because I've noticed with myself, like I had like a little bump, and I had it checked out, and they said, "Oh, it's nothing. It's just like a thing. It's just your body." And the more and more I think about it, like I think I've like noticed a change over the years, and I'm not going to hang on to it like the holy grail of stuff, but it's crossed my mind that maybe I've like had a bruise or hurt myself, and like my body's just healed in a way, and it's kind of like, done the same sort of thing, like a bit of scar tissue or blockage or something, because I definitely feel like my body has changed over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm just, we're waiting to see the urologist and all that kind of stuff, but hopefully I'm going to just politely, I'm not going to hold on to it, but in a nice kind of, maybe it could be that, in a nice little thought, tuck it away in the back of my head and hope that could be something, which would help our chances.
It could be, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah. I think it's lovely that you've
in the back of your head. It's gonna keep eating.
Yeah.
Oh no! Like I am like, the way that I am with everything is I assume the worst and everything's bonus.
Yeah.
Like seriously though, like when it comes to is my car going to break down? Yes, it's going to break down. So what do I need to do? I need to make sure I got a phone that I can call someone to pick me up, and then that way, when the car makes it there in one go, you're like, okay, here we go. That's a bonus.
It's great that you've had that success though, Ed. Even after going through all those failures and, attempts that just didn't work, it must have been heartbreaking. So you must have been ecstatic when you found out you were pregnant with Lily.
Were you on eggshells up to birthday?
Well, I think I actually cried, to be honest, when my wife told me.
Yeah, yeah.
I was teaching a student, and she sent me this message saying, I'm pregnant. I was like,
wow.
Oh my God, just this wow. Sort of, it's so difficult to explain, just the shock sort of hitting you. And
especially when you didn't think it was possible.
Yeah, when somebody tells you 1 in 2 million.
Yeah.
then it was more than a shock. But then I was on tender. I was so sort of stressed after that anything went wrong. So my wife wasn't hungry. You've got to eat.
Yeah.
You've got to eat. I'm making you something to eat.
Yeah.
And I think that drove her up the wall, to be honest. But yeah, once we got past 3 months, the doctors checked over Lily and said she's fine. She's grown really well. She's a bit underweight. And I thought, yeah, she's.
Do you wish they didn't tell you that
3 months
now?
old.
Yeah.
She's not. She's still in the womb. She's got plenty of time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a rough ride for my wife. I think apart from the sleeping in the 8 months and nine months, it was very difficult for her to move around and cut her toenails. That was an entertaining movement. But it wasn't bad when she got pregnant. I think her pregnancy was pretty good. She was sick for maybe 2 months, and then it stopped, and she was okay.
Oh, I think that is all you could hope for after what you've been through, to just have like a smooth pregnancy. Not that being pregnant is easy by any means, but
no extra problem.
But yeah, just to have things go to plan must have been so nice.
But I still remember the very first time we did IVF and getting that phone call from my wife, and I was driving home from work and getting that phone call and hearing it didn't work. I still remember just sitting there in the car on the red light and thinking, what can I say to her when I get home? What is going to make this better?
I hope that we could deal with, something going wrong and just be like, well, we're not worse off than we were before we started. I try and be pragmatic like that. Every time I say that to Becky, she'll find a way to undo it. But basically, we've got our health.
Yeah.
We've got our friends, we've got our family, we've got
I'm the emotional one in the relationship, can you tell?
I mean, it's not
got a right to be.
It's validated, but what I'm saying is if we try and prepare ourselves now, there is a really high chance that it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it might not work the first time, but it's I think if we just prepare ourselves for it to be, it's like preparing to run a marathon. If you do, literally. But you do it in stints.
Definitely.
So you might do a 10K run and finish.
Yeah.
But you might not. But if you're prepared for the marathon, then I wish I want to go back to Korea in a way now.
Yeah.
I miss Korea so much. Just to be able to hang out with everyone
not exactly being very nice to us foreigners right now.
Oh no.
But this is what happens. This is what happens when a predominantly foreign sort of area for nightclubs and bars has a young man who's not very well and goes to nightclubs and parties with people and infects 300 people.
Patient 31.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure who he was, but I mean, some stories said he was gay, some stories says he wasn't. I really don't care about his sexuality.
The original.
But Korean people really do. And that's the other thing. It's so scary that suddenly, celebrities who are gay can suddenly be pulled up as oh, you're to blame too.
As in for the whole pandemic?
Well, just because one person went to a gay club, spread the virus to 300 people, they're pulling up celebrities that are gay, and they're like, you should answer for this as well.
It's shocking, isn't it, in this day and age that people can be treated like that?
Terrifying.
The original.
Terrifying.
Did you see the original? No, Patient 31. There was a lady, the Korean lady. She went from Seoul to Daegu, I think.
Yeah.
And they were spraying water into it. So that woman was a lot worse than this latest person they're trying to vilify. The cult.
Oh yeah.
The cult lady.
The worst thing about the latest one in Incheon, not in Incheon, in Itaewon, is that a mothers group posted all the foreign people who were teachers who were in Itaewon that night.
Oh.
And the thing that is very worrying is how the hell did they get that information in the first place?
Yeah.
Foreign office type of thing for Korea.
Well, the police were doing facial recognition and tying it to people's social media, which I think is a little bit scary.
Yeah.
But how did a mothers group get that information and put it on the internet?
Hagwons? Did you just reach out to Hagwon directors and school directors?
But the thing that happened though, it kind of went like a wildfire, where all of the schools, all of the Hagwons, all of the universities, all the colleges are suddenly demanding that I tell them where I was on the Saturday night,
What?
And I go get and if I was in anywhere near in Itaewon, would I have to go and get a test? I can't leave the house for 7 days.
But you live in Daegu?
I know, and some people had to sign sort of declarations. Sorry, some people had to sign declarations to say that they would not get COVID-19, and if they did, they would resign.
Oh my goodness.
That's a bit backwards.
And we all know that the culture in Korea, when you're an English teacher, is that you go out and get drunk. That's part of your job.
Yeah. I mean, now it's gone even further though, because the Korean government have removed the re-entry visa for everybody who's foreign.
So you can't go home to see family and come back and.
Well, you can, but you have to apply to them, pay a fee, tell them where you're going and why, and then they will okay it.
I don't think you can go anywhere anyway right now.
No, not right now. You can't. I think you can only go to the Philippines. I think right now anyway.
Wow.
From Korea anyway. But you have to get a medical check in the country you're in, and this isn't a COVID-19 test. This is a medical check.
Full on lung scans and all that.
Well, again, you go to Thailand for a vacation, that can take 3 to 4 days to do. You know, it's not like Korea where you can turn up and do it on the same day. You have to actually have a bona fide reason in some countries to ask for that.
Yeah.
And it costs a lot of money. In America, that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, but also the massive inequality in this is that my wife's Korean. My daughter has a Korean and a British passport. So my daughter also has to get a medical check. I have to get a medical check. But even if my wife and I go to the exact same places all the time, she just walks straight back into Korea, goes to get a job. But I have to take a test, get a certificate, come in and quarantine for 14 days.
Wow.
Yeah, that's bananas.
And
it's not great over here though. We're like there's problems over here with that.
Well, yeah,
People being too slack.
I mean, when you're like me and you've just finished off your law degree and you're looking at international rights, human rights and things, it's very wrong. It's very wrong. You know, but I mean, like Paul said, every country's got a problem, but I don't necessarily mean to slag Korea off, because Korea's done a very good job with the COVID-19 cases. They've really kept control of it. They're opening up the schools. There's a lot of clarity about who's got what, who's going where. It's very, very informative. But I think this is a knee-jerk response to a few hundred mothers that got a little angry and got very, very xenophobic.
Yeah.
So, can I ask you what it's like as a dad, a foreign dad in Korea? You know, sort of mingling with the other parents and stuff like that. Is it pretty easy to get in amongst the parent groups and things, or?
Well, it runs both ways. You get, if I go out for a walk anywhere with my daughter, we're like magnets. It's like elderly people come over and start squeezing her cheeks, and she's got brown hair, she's got big eyes,
Which I don't know, like for people listening in the future, right now that might not be the best thing to be happening with social distancing and stuff like that. So,
oh yeah, especially when people pull her mask down to see.
Oh.
To see if her nose is very Western or whether it's Korean.
Yeah, that's one thing I remember about Ajumas. They don't really have very good social boundaries, or
I do miss it.
Personal space is not a thing.
I do miss it. It's like everyone
don't get the idea. They don't get it. I mean, you do get some more polite people who are like, "Oh, your daughter's very cute," and they don't touch her. But then other people are just like, "Ooh,"
Yeah.
But we go to a play group at the local social centre, and my daughter gets lots and lots of attention from everybody. All the other little girls want to come and, sadly, they want to touch her hair. And I don't get that, but they're little kids.
It's just they're fascinated by people that are different, right?
Yeah, that's fine, because they're not being rude to her, they're not being nasty to her, they're not excluding her, they're playing with her. And it's nice to see, because the parents don't care. The parents come and talk to me as best they can, and they don't exclude me either. They don't exclude my wife. They don't shun us at all. So it's quite nice. But I do find sometimes that they're a little bit standoff until their children start to comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could just be because they don't speak very good English.
Hopefully.
It could be because they don't think I speak Korean.
Yeah.
That's hopefully that. I think, generally the Korean experience from what we know is, they're very welcoming and nice in general. So do you have any sort of plans? Do you know what the family unit is gonna be doing soon? Are we sticking around in Daegu? Or?
No, we're currently trying to sell our apartment, but obviously COVID-19 is not particularly very helpful.
Yeah.
It's put a damper on everything. We are currently waiting for New Zealand to open the border so that my wife can go to university and I can go get a job.
Oh, amazing.
I'd love to live in New Zealand.
That's the aim. We've been working on this for nearly 3 years.
How old is Lily?
She's 15 months. 15
Yeah.
months now.
Yeah. Oh, great.
So she'll be 2 years old when we get over there, and hopefully that's it.
So have your visas been approved? Is it just a case of waiting for COVID to get lost kind of thing?
Not yet, because my wife has applied through the university for her course. Her course has to give her all the documentation to supply to the immigration, but they're not fully open yet.
Mm-hmm.
So
New Zealand have done an awesome job.
They have. They've done a fantastic job. But there's only 5 million people, and there's 5 million people who are very, very socially aware.
Yeah, definitely.
If you've got 5 million people who are all very socially aware, you're probably going to beat this really easily.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you look at the UK, you've got Mr. Cummins just not giving a crap.
Yeah, that's really upsetting for us because we've wanted to see family and stuff, and obviously haven't.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, if one person breaks it, and some say 50% of the public are like, that's justified. That's giving it a ticket.
Yeah.
And saying everyone else go do it.
To be honest, I think that the Tories have wanted this herd immunity thing from the start, and they've just deliberately been as vague as possible to shift. It's basically the same end point. The end product is everyone just doesn't really socially distance, and it just gets. Their idea is it just gets around everyone and fizzles out. But they've done it in a way so that it absolves them from blame and puts the blame on the public. So,
well, I mean, the number of deaths in the UK, though. Well, I mean,
it's frightening.
Yeah, and it has a knock-on effect for everyone. Like our IVF clinic shut because of all the NHS staff that have been redeployed and stuff. So we were literally 2 or 3 weeks away from having our appointment, and then the virus hit, and understandably everyone got redeployed and stuff like that. So we're at this weird waiting game now with the Wales Infertility
the Wales Fertility Institute.
Yeah, Wales Fertility Institute has officially applied for its status to be opened, and it's been granted, but it's not actually operational because they're waiting for staff, and then obviously the waiting list. We were literally 3 weeks away from our appointment, but now they are going to prioritize people who might have turned 39 in that period of window and stuff. So we really don't know what's going on. So, but we're just holding our horses, waiting for some information, doing what we can.
What will be, will be.
Well, I mean, I got my fingers crossed for you guys. I mean,
thank you.
Just remember that you like us, you never know when it might just happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think my wife necessarily gave up. I think it was always in her head that it could happen, but I just don't think she wanted to think about it.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know. Just us letting go was exactly what she needed. But I don't think the IVF was a waste of time in Korea. I really don't. I don't regret spending money on it, and I don't regret any of the experiences I got from it.
Yeah.
I know the one doctor who, the very first doctor that told us there was nothing wrong. She delivered our baby.
Oh, that's nice.
So and she was really surprised that my wife was pregnant. She was really happy. I think that made her day as well, that somebody who thought would never have a child I'm delivering her child right now.
Definitely.
So I think especially for you when you're starting out, just don't think for a second that anything's to blame.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I would say is I never once thought that my wife was to blame or I was to blame. I just thought that's just the way it is.
I kind of accept that, like, it's my physiology that's the reason. I don't know if I use the word blame.
I disagree with you though, because like I said, it's more complicated than that, because I've got the issues with my thyroid, and I think the
I'd
interesting...
quite happily take the blame to make
I
it
don't-
cool, but I would. I just like, what are you gonna do? Like,
Nah, I wouldn't go down that. I wouldn't go down that road at
Yeah.
all. I'd steer away from it because you. I mean, I don't know in the UK, but I know in Korea it's like 1 in 18 people who do IVF gets divorced,
Mhm. Yeah.
and
we could be one of those lucky ones.
it's a scary thought to think that
Yeah.
a marriage can break up because.
Oh no, we've had highs and lows and stuff. Like,
It is a huge thing. Well, I was thinking the other day that,
doesn't fade.
like you, it wasn't long after we got married that that we started trying, and we'll have been married 3 years this July. So it's really similar to your story, but I always think, oh, how different would life be? You know, if we just, if things had gone the way we wanted to and conceived and had a baby by now, or that we had just decided not to try and it wasn't our priority. I wonder how things would have been. But hindsight's a very interesting thing, and I don't think it's that useful anyway.
No,
Could be all sorts, just gotta have an open mind. It might be we might end up getting to the destination a different route.
Yeah.
We never know. So cool. Well, we it must be late where you are, Ed. We appreciate you jumping on and sharing your story with us. But we will.
My daughter goes to sleep at 8:30, and I have free time after that. So.
Ah, nice.
Oh, nice one.
Well, we'll have to
This is
we'll
my
catch up
free
with you
time.
again and see how things are going and how the New Zealand plans are coming along and stuff. It'd be good to check in and see how everyone's doing.
You guys.
Yeah, great to talk to you, Ed. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
Cool.
thank you very much for giving us an insight into what the UK is like as well right now.
Yeah, no problem.
Best of luck to you guys.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll see you in a bit.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
So a massive thank you to Ed and Mina and little Lily for sharing their story with us. It's not a usual kind of story for an IVF journey.
It was really awesome to hear.
Yeah,
Lots of twists and turns and the positivity out of it. It was nice.
So nice to hear a positive ending, because obviously that doesn't happen to lots of people. Although I know a friend from work who went through an IVF with one child and then naturally conceived afterwards. So it's
possible.
Not uncommon. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. I know I loved hearing the aspect of the experience of IVF outside of the UK.
It makes us really appreciate how lucky we are in the UK to have an amazing NHS and an amazing service, and the amount of service that you get is incredible compared to other IVF treatments that we've sort of broached upon with other people who have had them across the world. So big shout out to the NHS. We love you. Thank you.
And South Korea too. It will always have a special place in our hearts. So anyone listening over there, 안녕하세요. Hope you're doing well, and 감사합니다. 감사합니다 for listening. It's been really nice to hear that side of the story, and I'll pass over to you for your Twitch venture now.
Well,
Our Twitch venture.
Yeah, that's a really fancy way of saying come and hang out with us on Twitch on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. We're just figuring Twitch out. It's a new thing for us. Just playing some games, hanging out. It's pretty cool because you can have a chat room, and it's kind of like a step further than, we love hearing from everyone on Instagram and DMs and on the YouTube comments and all that kind of stuff. So the Twitch is the same kind of thing, but we just hang out and people can like leave messages, and there's a chat room, and it's just like a virtual hangout, and you get to watch Becky beat me playing Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, so I think next week we've got a really ace interview with another couple in South Wales, and we can't wait to share that with you. We've just finished interviewing them. So
and make sure, if you are enjoying the podcast, give us any tips on things that you would like to hear more about. If you enjoy the content that we're making, it would really help us out if you could give us like a thumbs up, and if you want to hear more, hit that bell and get the notifications. And the same when you get the podcast too. Like, obviously I don't really like asking, but sometimes when I'm watching stuff I forget to do it and I want to do it, and then someone reminds me and I'm like, oh yeah, no, cool, I'll do that. So if you enjoy what we're doing and you appreciate it, give us a thumbs up and a like and a subscribe to the channel and stuff. And the same with wherever you get your podcast. If you just listen to the audio, then the same for that, and give us a review on the iTunes store and stuff. So sounds super needy, but we'd really
Needs
appreciate
must.
it. Yeah, it would really help us out if you could. So thanks for all the support from everyone, and yeah, come and hang out with us. Twitch, twitch.tv/Hope and Mum and Dad, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. And yeah,
We'll swap times from last week, but that's okay.
Yeah, we
8
pushed
p.m.
it
for now.
back. 8 p.m. So yeah, twitch.tv/Hope and Mum and Dad, 8 p.m. Tuesdays, and yeah, we'll catch you then.
Yeah. Goodbye.